Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Monday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Dottino and Matt Citak with you. It is day one of the post-draft Big Blue Kickoff Live coverage. Our phone number is 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. Find us on social media using hashtag Giants Chat. Also simulcasting live on the New York Giants YouTube page and the Giants mobile app. An archive of this show and our entire podcast network is also on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcasts. And we come to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. It is over. We have all climbed the mountain. Everybody around the NFL has been trying to build up and climb and climb and climb one step at a time to get to the mountain known as the NFL Draft. It is now complete. So, folks, what's left? Well, still free agency, a little bit of tinkering on the roster, conversations that have to take place, but at least the heavy lifting is over, Matt. And I think knee-jerk reaction, and I say knee-jerk reaction on purpose because jerk is a pun. We all know that you don't know anything about the draft until at least 3 years down the road, and you can find out how these players will perform on your football field. But the initial reaction is that the Giants did very well in terms of value, meeting need, meeting pure talent, and did an awful lot to reinforce some of the soft spots on the depth chart.
Yeah, I know you've gotten to, talk about some of the draft picks in the reaction show the last couple of days. This is my first time getting to talk about the class.
That's why I'm setting you up.
I got to say, and I feel like I'm putting biased aside when I say this, that I don't see how you can look at this draft class and not just be incredibly excited for this season and for the future of the New York Football Giants. I mean, of course, when you get 2 picks in the top 10, you expect both of those guys to hit. I mean, I don't think that's such a stretch. Obviously, it doesn't happen, and we went over this last week that the hit rate on those picks are not quite as high as you would think, but that's obviously the hope, that you would come out of the top 10 addressing 2 areas of need and getting 2 of the best players in the draft, and that's exactly what the Giants did. I saw a lot of fan takes Thursday night being like, "Oh, I can't believe the Giants drafted another edge rusher." I'm sure you guys addressed this in the day's reaction show and in BBK Friday, et cetera, but Harbaugh Reese is not lining up at edge rusher this year. He might get some snaps, a handful of snaps a game there, but he is playing linebacker next to Tremaine Edmonds. Mm-hmm. John Harbaugh made that very clear Thursday night when they spoke to the media, him and Joe, that he is a linebacker. And for those that wanted Sonny Styles for the Giants at 5, well, Harbaugh Reese was a better linebacker than him and was ranked higher by just about every single person. I mean, John Harbaugh and Joe Schoen said that Harbaugh Reese was the number 1 player on their board, and were shocked that he was sitting there at 5 when they got on the clock. So very excited about him. I think him and Tremaine Edmonds are, they're going to form the best linebacker duo the Giants have had in years, in a very long time. And then, as I said on the show last week, leading up to the draft, one of those 2 top 10 picks was going to be used on helping Jackson Dart in some way. And I said it could be an offensive lineman, it could be a wide receiver. Well, by the time the Giants got on the clock at 10, obviously the top 2 receivers were gone, but the number 1 offensive lineman on their board was still sitting there. And the guy that they had ranked 4th on their board altogether was still sitting there. Mm-hmm. So that became a no-brainer pick. Moving on to day 2, you got Colton Hood, who has a chance to compete from day 1 and be that starting outside corner opposite Paulson Adebo. Him and Greg Newsome are going to compete, but he's got a chance to win that starting job pretty early on. And they traded up, obviously, for Malachi Fields, who's just a big-bodied, physical receiver. And the thing that excites me the most about Malachi Fields is not only is he a willing blocker, but he is a very good blocker. Mm-hmm. He just continues in the trend of, the Pat Ricard signing, getting these big physical guys. I mean, you look at all 7 members of this draft class, they are all physical guys. It was clearly an emphasis. I mean, John Harbaugh said it, and Joe said it after the draft Saturday, that there was an emphasis put on getting bigger and more physical. And you look at all 7 guys that the Giants drafted, they all fit that description. Every single one of them. I mean, and I wrote about this in the cover 3 on Giants.com that's coming out this afternoon, but the very first line on the NFL.com descriptions of Malachi Fields and Colton Hood on their prospect pages that Lance Zierlein puts together. I want to get it exactly because I don't want to mess.
No, it's a good point, so I want you to be perfect on it.
Yeah, so the very first line for both of their overviews, and this is, I'm talking about the 2 day 2 picks.
Right.
For Colton Hood, press man bully with the ability to put a stamp on the first and last phases of the snap.
Mm-hmm.
Bully. I mean, sign me up for that in my corner. And then Malachi Fields, a boundary X receiver who uses elite size and strength to bully defensive backs. See a trend there? And that's after the Arvo Reese and Francis Maui-Noah picks. And then going to day 3, obviously when you have 3 6-round picks, those are kind of all, dart throws, so to speak.
Yeah.
You're not expecting your day 3 picks to all of a sudden become Pro Bowl, All-Pro players. It'd be great if they did. It would certainly help the direction of the franchise, but you never know with those guys. But they took chances on 3 guys that all have good traits, again, with the physicality. And Jack Kelly, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I did not know much about him prior to the Giants selecting him, but he was insanely productive these last 2 seasons. And looking at, some previous interviews he did in college, just descriptions of him, and I'm not the first one to say this, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but he seems like the linebacker version of Cam Scadaboo in terms of his personality and just wanting to hit people. The 2 of them, I feel like the ways to describe them, obviously we saw it with Scott last year, is just like junkyard dogs, the 2 of them. So I'm just very excited about this entire draft class. I mean, and it's not just me. I know, as Paul mentioned, as you said, you can't really judge it for 3 years out, of course, but that doesn't stop all these analysts across the NFL media landscape from doing just that. Dane Brugler released his draft class rankings just this morning. The Giants landed at number 2, only behind the Cleveland Browns, who also obviously had a fantastic draft. But
yes,
Giants were number 2. You look at, the article on Giants.com I put together of expert grades. There's a lot of A+, A's, A-. The media seems to think as well that the Giants really did well in this draft. And again, you have 2 top 10 picks. You should do pretty well. But the success that Joe Shane, John Harbaugh, the whole front office had in drafting this class goes beyond just those 2 picks. And they really did a great job of, as you mentioned, meeting best player available with areas of need on this roster. And there's no way around it. The Giants roster and this team is just better today than it was a couple of days ago.
Interestingly enough, and Lance Meadow always talks on this program about you draft also for the future, not for this year. Well, think about it, folks. Maui-Noah is going to be a guard. Marcus Bowe has guard tackle flexibility, as does Maui-Noah. Those 2 offensive linemen, as we sit here today, I believe are the only 2 interior offensive linemen who have a contract past this season. So you have to keep that in mind. That is a good thing to look forward to as you go down the line. I also think that's one of the reasons why they got what I think is the sleeper of their draft, J.C. Davis, the tackle out of Illinois in the 6th round, who I had pegged for several days. I was hoping he would be there, and I think he's more of a guard than a tackle, but he does have the size and the length to possibly give you something to tackle if necessary. But replenishing the offensive line is going to be an issue for this team as the year progresses and you look forward to 2027. Of course, that doesn't mean you can't re-sign some of the guys you still have, but it's nice to know at least you might have some live bodies who are breathing, who have contracts beyond this season. Same thing also goes for the cornerback spot. Banks is on his last year. Newsome is on a 1-year deal. Okay, Adebo did not play well last year, so, they need to see a bounce back out of him. But by drafting Hood, they now have a guy who can not only compete this year, but you also know you now have him under contract going further.
Yep.
Once again, this is about the future and the replenishing as much as it is about now. And I think that's what's important. Malachi Fields, once again, look at the wide receivers and the length of the contracts on this team, plus with Neighbors coming off an injury. It's not just that they got a skyscraper that I yearn for every single spring. And by the way, do you think that the two Notre Dame running backs who got a chunk of yards last year running the ball didn't get some downfield blocking from Malachi Fields? Because if you didn't know that, you know it now. Because Fields had a big part in what those guys did when they broke long ones toward the end zone. And so Fields is another guy now who can groom and grow with Jackson Dart into the future. So you see, the Giants did a really good job of all of the stuff that comes into the 2026 equation, but they also helped themselves moving forward by going to spots that also are going to be very thin and will need to be retooled after this season is over. Even Bobby Jamison Travis, another guy who I had targeted as a sleeper. They hit him in the 6th round. Big wide body, no pass rush out of him. Okay, I get that, but they need defensive tackle help, specifically at the nose tackle spot against the run. He's long. He's a wide body. He's going to need some work. He's a prospect. I understand that. A project more than a prospect. But again, another really good signing, or should I say draft person for the Giants, because it has multiple reasons behind it, not just 26. That's what I thought was really, really good about this draft. It really had long-term vision as a part of its answer.
Yeah, and when Joe spoke to the media, what was it, I guess almost 2 weeks ago now at this point, he made it clear that when they were going into this draft, they weren't just looking at the 2026 roster. Obviously, that played a very, very big part in it, but they were looking beyond. And they, every point that you just touched, they were looking at, well, what does the depth chart look like right now in 2027 with the guys under contract, even 2028? And so, yeah, I'm with you 100%. They did a great job of addressing areas of need both for this season and for the future. And one of the things that, stood out to me the most when Joe and John spoke to the media after Saturday, when the draft was complete, and they did kind of like their recap press conference talking about the entire draft class, was Joe said it first about the day three picks, that they have a very clear vision on how they're going to use each of those guys. Mm-hmm. And, they mentioned, as you said, Bobby Jamison Travis is that run-stopping, lane clogger in the middle of the defensive line. J.C. Davis, similar to Marcus Bowe, they mentioned that he has the flexibility of playing swing tackle and swing guard. That's 4 different positions that they think he has the potential, obviously after some training and developing, but he could be that sort of guy that provides versatility all throughout. And Jack Kelly, who they said right away is going to contribute to special teams. I wouldn't be surprised if he's leading the team in special team tackles this season right away, and also the ability to provide depth at the linebacker position. But then Coach took it one step further and said, we have a very clear vision on how we're using or plan on using every single member of this draft class. And that doesn't say that, in previous years they didn't have that same vision, but it is just, I guess, refreshing to see that they took these guys, all 7 of them, and knew exactly how they planned on using them, again, both in 2026 and moving forward.
And I think the other item, to be very clear, it came out apparently in the last 24 hours out of Miami that they really wanted Malachi Fields. So the Giants, Joe Shane and his group of folks in that war room, they did what they had to do. They got up in front of Miami. They made the trade. They had to spend 3 draft picks to do it, 2 this year and 1 next year. And by the way, the trade value chart said points-wise that was a very reasonable move.
Yeah.
But they felt they had to do it to get Malachi Fields. They had to jump and make sure that they beat Miami to the punch. And look, great foresight. They got the guy they wanted. And, folks, I don't know what else there is to say. I'll just add this about Arvell Reese in case we didn't talk enough about him before the draft because we thought someone else was going to take him. The fact is, he is as Matt said, he's an off-ball linebacker. That's what he's going to do this year. But remember, Kayvon Thibodeau's a free agent at the end of the season. And if he goes elsewhere, guess what? You now have the flexibility. If you decide to, at some point, you want to move him outside, you can do it. Another point to be made for how the Giants were looking ahead, not just for today.
Yeah, to be clear on that point is that, throughout the pre-draft process, everyone was calling Orville Reese an edge rusher in the media. I just want to make it very abundantly clear. He played linebacker at Ohio State. That was his position. The edge that, he was considered by the media leading up to the draft, that was a projection of where they thought teams would see Orville Reese in the NFL.
Well, he mentioned he'd rather play edge because I'm sure he was talking about the money down the road.
Of course.
And I get that.
From a business standpoint, I completely understand that.
I get some of that miscommunication out in the media. I get some of that.
No, I'm not blaming the media. I'm just saying because Thursday night I was on Giants Twitter seeing so many people being like, I can't believe the Giants just took a guy that's going to be their fourth edge rusher. And I just want to make it abundantly clear that Orville Reese played linebacker at Ohio State. He had some snaps where he lined up on the edge, of course, and he did very well in those snaps, and he has that capability. As you mentioned, Paul, maybe down the road they could push him outside and have him be an edge rusher. But in 2026, he's going to line up next to Tremaine Edmonds at off-ball linebacker, and again, give the Giants just two insanely athletic and big linebackers to anchor the middle of this defense.
All right, final thoughts. I think we would both agree nose tackle is still the one spot that probably could use a little more fortification, right?
As John Harbaugh himself said Saturday night, that there are still areas of the roster, and he specifically mentioned defensive tackle that will be addressed with future signings moving forward.
As did Joe Schoen. Okay.
Yes.
And then John Harbaugh also addressed the Odell Beckham Jr. situation. He did come in. He worked out well. He said, Harbaugh did, that he will talk to OBJ on Tuesday.
Yep.
And they will figure out where Odell thinks he fits, where the Giants think he fits, and they will try to come to some kind of answer, whatever it is. Could be he's here, could be he's not here. We will see. But the one thing that Harbaugh did say is if he does come here, his role is different than what the old OBJ was. This OBJ would have to be more of a big brother mentor type and more of a veteran in that room as opposed to, the go-to superstar that was known throughout the entire galaxy many years ago.
Yeah, look, if the Giants were to sign him, he's not coming in to get, 10 to 15 targets a game.
No.
And coach himself said that Odell is aware of that. Odell knows where he is in his career, in his life, and he said that Odell just wants to be a part of a team. He wants to help contribute and help a team win. So if that is a move that ends up getting made at some point, you're right. This is a different Odell. I wouldn't expect the one hand, three finger catch 40 yards down the field. I mean, maybe it could happen, but
you never know.
But yes, this is 100% a different, I would say, definitely more veteran and mature Odell Beckham that would be coming, wherever he ends up going. It is definitely, and a coach used these words, that his humility is a lot different than it was around this time, a decade ago. He's a lot more humble, and he understands where he is in his career at this point.
All right, quickly, I want to get to your calls. We want to go rapid fire because I know there's a lot of people who would like to react who maybe didn't get in on our draft shows. So, Matt, let me get this out of the way.
Yep.
The Giants Huddle podcast, long-form interviews, Giants coaches, scouts, former players, NFL personnel. They're all there, past and present. John does a great job getting those suckers up every single week. I think he does 2 or 3 every single week. Do we have anything that went up in the last 24 hours or is going up today or tomorrow?
I posted yesterday the draft season recap.
Tony Pauline
with John and Tony. Yep. I believe that is it in terms of podcasts that are up right now. Obviously, we've had a ton of videos go up on Giants.com, the app, YouTube. Since Thursday night. Interviews with all 7 draft picks had first interviews. Videos of the guys getting the draft call from Joe Schoen and John Harbaugh. Obviously, the day 1 and day 2 picks were all in the building over between Friday and Saturday. They met with the media. Those press conferences are up. a ton of content, and there obviously will be so much more content to come highlighting all 7 draft picks.
All right, enough of us. Now it's time for you. 201-939-4513. Coach Marvin in Delaware, you're first up on the show. Hello.
How you guys doing?
Well, Coach, how are you?
Tired,
I'm
but
doing
good.
okay. How you doing, Matt? Matt did a good job of describing the draft, so I'd like to give him a thumbs up on that. That was exactly how the draft went.
Thank you.
As I was doing the podcast, my first podcast for the draft, I thought of Paul as soon as I saw the Malachi Field pick. I said, "Oh, there's Paul's pick right there, 6'5", 220."
Yeah.
And that's what we needed. I know some other people are waiting to get online, but my thing is about what's going on with the Reese thing is I used to say it to the parents every August before our season begin. I have a meeting before the spring practice that we have, summer practice we have, and I will let the parents know that the first thing I'll say to them, at the beginning of the season, I'm the one that's going to lose no matter what. No matter how well we do, I'm going to lose. And why I used to say I'm going to lose is because I can't satisfy everybody.
It's true.
So when people come to the games, they bring their friends, they bring their family members. Everybody's going to question my decisions. They're going to question my play callings. They're going to question everything I do. And I let them know that I know this is going to happen. And I let them know that I can't satisfy you all. All I can do is do what's best for the team. And I think that's what the Giants did, because when I did the podcast, I was looking for downs, because I said, if they and I talked to you guys I think it was that Monday, if they take Sonny Styles and Downs, you probably woke up a sleeping giant. And I still feel that they still woke up a sleeping Giants, because I think the Giants did real well. I think a lot of teams did real well, actually. So when they took Reese, everybody's saying Sonny Styles, Reese changed the whole outcome. And it wasn't just them. It was the teams ahead of them. Love went, I think, third.
And then Tate went fourth to the Titans. That was the biggie.
Fourth.
Yeah.
So it turned the whole draft upside down at that moment. So the Giants are in a position to take the top 2 player in the draft, because on some boards he was number 1, some he was number 2. You have no choice. And as Matt says, he's an off-ball linebacker that's flexible to do different things. I don't compare him to Michael Parsons, but he is as violent as Michael Parsons. If you watch those hits on his film and how he hunts guys down, look at the hit when he gets there. It's Michael Parsons-like, the violent part to it. And so he's a guy that's similar to Sonny Styles. They're not that much different. And he can be similar to Caleb Downs, not that much different. And you figure all 3 of them played together. So they were playing off each other to try to say, oh, he's better than him, he's better than him. They were playing off each other. And then when they got to that 10th pick, that's why I thought it was Downs. I actually thought it was Downs. And then when it wasn't, we all based everything on feelings, on how we feel in the moment and what we see. And what we see with certain players is the ones that are around the ball the most. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen, they're not around the ball that much, so we don't watch them as much before you do that draft. So they lose that flavor of the excitement. So I took that night when I went to bed, and I woke up that morning, I started thinking, we complain so much about this offensive line, and they do something about it. And if they didn't do anything about it, then we're going to have calls to say, well, why they didn't fix the offensive lineman?
Right.
Why they didn't get a receiver? It's just, as said it before, as a coach, I lose because I cannot satisfy all of you.
Coach, appreciate the
And
call.
That's all I got, guys.
You got it.
Thank you, Coach.
You know, we said this. We said this last week. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I remember saying to you and John, there's going to be a large group of Giants fans who are going to be very unhappy no matter who they pick because there were too many logical selections.
Yeah.
Somebody was going to be ticked off that they didn't take your guy. Right?
For sure. And look, as Coach mentioned, the anger that I saw on Twitter Thursday night centered around, how could you pass on Caleb Downs? We've spoken about Caleb Downs on the show. I don't even know how
all of us did, and we all said we'd love to have him.
He's a phenomenal player. There's no doubt about it. But with that 10th pick, I mean, look, offensive lineman, it's not the sexy pick. As Coach mentioned, it is not the sexy pick. However, the Giants invested a lot last year to move up in the draft in order to get Jackson Dart, who showed a ton of flashes as a rookie. Flashes that this guy could be the franchise quarterback for the next decade plus. How can you be upset about getting someone that's going to protect him? Potentially the best offensive lineman in this draft, who his first thing he said after getting drafted is, Jackson Dart, I'll die for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this guy is a mauler who is going to at least start his career at guard. I mean, again, as Coach mentioned, people were complaining about the offensive line and who's going to start at right guard. Giants just drafted a guy who could be a very, very good right guard immediately. So, look, again, I understand it's not the sexy pick, but when Jackson Dart is out there being able to make insane jaw-dropping plays because his protection just got significantly better, then people will be pretty happy, I think.
You know, we all said that you can't go wrong drafting what you believe is the best offensive lineman in the draft. And the Giants had him number 4 on their board.
Overall.
Yes, and they got him at 10.
Yeah.
The math works, okay? You get the number 4 guy at 10, that's good.
100%.
Okay? And even though all of us wanted Downs, Bob Papa was on our show. John, we were doing the show that night. I was on with John and Bob. We're all over Downs. We had also said going into the draft, and I know it was on this show and it was on that show also, if there's one guy at that point that I could stomach passing Downs for, it would have been Manonoa. And that's only because of the age-old philosophy of you always build in the trenches, and if you can go get the best offensive lineman, you know what? That's okay. It makes sense. That's the foundation of your team. And as you say, with Jackson Dart developing, he needs as much protection as possible. It was a very logical and sensible pick, not the sexy pick, not the crumb cake with all the sugar on the top. I get that. We all were salivating over Downs, but Manonoa is as sound, a logical, rational, football-oriented pick as you could make.
100%. And then just real quick, again, to go back to Arvell for a second, I highly recommend Giants fans, you listening, go out and Google the clip of Thomas Davis, who had a very long, successful career in the NFL as a linebacker, on Steve Smith's podcast, Steve Smith from the Carolina Panthers, because he had a clip talking about Arvell Reese, and he called him, he said, exact quote, he has the ability to be one of the elite of the elites. And Thomas Davis, again, who was in the NFL, I think 16 years, said, I played alongside Luke Kuechly, and he has a lot of those same qualities. We were talking about Luke Kuechly the other week.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's pretty good. And I'm not saying that that's what Arvell Reese has to now become or get to that level. But this is a guy who played alongside Luke Kuechly for a long time, and those are his words that he had to describe him. Just wanted it. So go check out that clip.
We go to Jason in New Haven on line 2. You're next on the show. Hello.
Hey, my guys, Paul and Matt. How you guys doing?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Quick thing, so I know you got to get, trying to knock these callers out. Great draft, in my opinion. Now, of course, we all three of us know these things have to play out over the next 2, 3, 4 years. We get that. But on the surface level, man, I don't see how anybody can complain about this draft. I don't get why people. I mean, Reese. Nobody thought Reese would fall to 5. I mean, that's a slam dunk layup. I mean, I don't get it. CeCe Manonoa, in my opinion, I said what I had to say about Downs. I wish him all the best when we don't play the Cowboys, but I'm taking a lineman to protect Dart 10 times out of 10 over a safety, regardless of how good he may be. You know why? Because you could, as an offense, you could kind of scheme a safety. A safety's not going to be in on every play, as opposed to a guard who's going to have to run block, pass block, screen game. Like, to me, that was a no-brainer as far as picking the guard with flexibility. A few other points, man. The D tackle from Auburn, I don't know if people realize, but and I know a lot of people don't care about the PFF thing, but just for argument's sake, outside of Caden McDonald, who was number one in a run stop win rate, you know who the second guy was? Bobby Travis Johnson. So it seems to me like Shane and Harbaugh have an archetype of the kind of defensive tackles they want employed in this defense. I don't think they care too much about now, if you get pass rush out of your defensive lineman, that's great. But they want guys who can eat up these blocks so Edmonds and Reese can wreak havoc on these offenses. So that to me was a great draft. The Davis kid, yeah, he has some flexibility to play guard, but people forget he was a first-team All-Big Ten tackle last year. So he does have flexibility to play tackle in the pinch or guard because of his measurables and how tough he is. Jack Kelly, another pass rusher, he reminds me of Leo Chenal when he came out to draft a few years ago. He can mug the A-gap, has some pass rush. He's not the best tackler, which you don't like, which is probably why he fell to the 6th round. Yeah, because he does have a high missed tackle rate, which is not great. But maybe they have maybe in the scheme, maybe they like him going forward instead of dropping back in coverage. So, man, what a great draft! Reese Fallen to me was the highlight of the night, man. And for now, we have so much violence and athleticism at the second level, fellas, that I haven't seen, in my opinion, since maybe the Kawika, Mitchell, and Pierce days. In my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, fellas. Maybe Paul or Matt, maybe you disagree with me, but this second level, man, it's a lot of speed, man. Even with McFadden and some of the other guys we have coming back. Man, just a knockout of the park, fellas. So I won't hold up anymore. I think the draft was great. Hopefully after 4 p.m. we hear some signings of some other D tackles, which I'm hoping. And you guys, listen, you guys did an awesome job this weekend. I was able to listen to all the instant reactions. And you guys have always just do a tremendous job of keeping the Giants fan base knowledgeable and what's going on. And I always got to give you guys kudos. So, yes, anybody that's complaining about this draft just wants to be unhappy. So
we'll let them call you, Jason. We'll let them call you. They can complain to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Bobby Jamison Travis out of Auburn, the funny part about him is that when I watched his cut-ups, and yes, he's got quite a girth in the middle, he has tremendous length, which is a very big part of his game. And again, no pass rush that he exhibited at the NCAA level. But at Auburn, there was no doubt he was really, really nice against the run. He did a really good job there. And I think he is a real sleeper prospect for the Giants there. I laughed when I was looking at his tape a couple weeks back. He was number 97. I mean, that was kind of funny. Not quite as big or as wide or as humongous as the old 97 the Giants had last year. But the point is, a guy with that length, that size, and that type of run-stopping ability, when you're talking about late day 3 and you're looking for a backup nose tackle, that fits. That fits. You're not drafting him, to be a 50-snap-a-game guy. That's not what you're doing.
No, you're drafting him to help stop the run. He's not going to be in there on passing downs. I mean, unless down the road that he develops that part to his game, but that's not what he was brought in. I mean, he himself even said, I think he was asked after getting drafted, how would you describe yourself? And his words were, I'm a run stopper. Yeah. He said that himself. And, Jason mentioned, again, I know PFF grades, don't have to go too in-depth to it, but PFF gave him 84.6 run defense grade, which is considered elite by them. He is very good at stopping the run. And just one other point that, Jason brought up a name that reminded me of something I just wanted to very quickly touch on. He brought up Caden McDonald. And obviously, that was going into day 2, that was a player that at least a lot of fans very much wanted the Giants to go after.
We all liked him too.
We did, 100%. He is a great prospect. And after seeing his reaction and after getting drafted, how emotional he was, seems like a great person as well. I'm rooting for him. But obviously the Houston Texans traded up right before the Giants and took him. And I saw so many people, including some reporters, say, oh, here we go again. You know, the Giants got sniped of the guy that they wanted, a team trading up, blah, blah, blah. That's just not true. Joe, I'm not sure if it was Joe or I think it was Joe, said it after the draft Friday night. Colton Hood was the number one player on the Giants board going into day 2.
They went best player available.
If he was there, they were taking him. Even if Caden McDonald was still on the board, they were taking Colton Hood if he was there. So just a very little thing that I just wanted to point out because I saw so many people complaining that the Giants got sniped again and the draft pick stolen. And I just wanted to say that it's just categorically not true.
They truly went with the integrity of the board.
Yeah, which again, we talk all the time. That's the best way to do it. That's how you get the best players, by just going best player available.
It's pretty simple, right?
It seems like it.
As far as J.C. Davis goes, I'm not saying he's the same player, but think of the same arc as Nick Gates had when he came out, okay? Because he was a tackle. Now, Davis was a left tackle at Illinois. Nick Gates was a right tackle, I believe, as I recall, if I'm not mistaken, when he came out of school. And I immediately thought that when they got Gates as an undrafted rookie free agent, I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be a really good guard. You got to move him inside. He could do it. He could play. J.C. Davis is that kind of guy. He immediately, for me, immediately has a chance to do some things in this league as a guard. Who knows if center's in his future? I don't know the answer to that. But he does at least have size and length that if for some reason you need him in a pinch of tackle, he could do it. So that's nice to have. So again, I thought both of those big guys that they took in the 6th round, I did not watch tape on Kelly. I'm familiar with what everybody has said about him. They all talk about him as if he's going to be a special teams, demon. That's the way they talk about him.
That's a good way to put it.
So fine. You could use one of those on this team because John Harbaugh is really big on special teams. Oh, yeah. So that's great. But the two bigs that they took in the 6th, I'm telling you, I really, really think that those guys are kind of sleepers in that. I think they could do something in this league at some point.
Yeah, just on J.C. Davis real quick again. Take it with a grain of salt because it's PFF grades, but they gave him an elite run blocking grade this past season.
He's a pit bull with a phone booth.
86.7. In fact, 2 of his 4 years at Illinois, he was given elite grades in run blocking. So clearly there was a trend, a theme with those 6th-round picks.
John in Cape Cod, you're next on the program. Hello.
Good afternoon, fellas. You did a great job with the draft. I really enjoy the show every time you guys are on. Just a couple of things. There's a saying in business that the fish sinks from the head. The reverse of that is that excellence starts at the top. And it's obvious to see with John Harbaugh, not only is he a great coach, but he's a great person. I love the way during the conferences he would deflect the praise to Joe Shane. So I think maybe that relationship will continue to be what we want it to be. It was a stunner to find out that Reese was still around in 5, and I think they've got themselves a great linebacker for the future. He reminds me a bit of Carl Banks in terms of the fact he always is around the ball and has great lateral movement. I like everybody else, I'll be honest, I wanted the DB at 10, but I think they hit it out of the park with the guy they got because he can step right in and play guard. And the Giants' weakness last year, one of them was the ability to finish and get in the end zone when you're inside the red zone. I think also with people watching the draft, maybe one of the happiest guys after they used their 10 on an offensive lineman and then receivers and a great corner would be DJ Reader, because I think he may be the next signing for the Giants. What Harbaugh's doing there strategically obviously is obvious. He's building the team that's going to beat up people. And it reminds me of Parcells 2.0. I can remember, like yesterday, the year they turned it around, the year they ended up playing the Bears, when he was talking about bulking the offensive line. He said, the guys I'm going to have, nobody's going to eat peanuts off their head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could go on and on, but I think that this was an A draft for the Giants, and I think the upside is tremendous. You guys keep doing what you're doing. Love the show.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
In short, and I was talking to one of my football guys today who's been around the game for about 45 years. We pretty much agreed, and I've mentioned this a few times with them the last couple of days. The Giants right now have built a roster with the intention of dictating on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
They do not look like a team that's going to read and react. They do not look like a team that is going to try to see, what do you think we can do? They look like a team that on both sides of the ball is going to do what we want. We will take what we want. We will do what we want. They now, for the first time in many years, and even the 22 team did not have the amount of talent and depth on its roster that they could, on both sides of the ball, dictate how the game was going to be played. I'm seeing the game plan right now. The blueprint says they will do that. Now, will these players stay healthy and produce to the level of their football card? I don't know the answer to that. I don't. So it may not turn out that way, but I think they've given themselves a chance to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. The theme going back to the start of free agency even, and it's clearly was an emphasis in this draft, is just getting big physical guys, as you said, to dictate the game. They want to, on offense, they're going to run the crap out of the ball and dictate the line of scrimmage, time of possession, and then the same thing on the other side of the ball. They want to stop the run and get the ball back to their offense as quickly as possible, and they're going to do it by having these big physical guys at just about every single level, but especially the front, which, I mean, I understand now, obviously, with, Dexter Lawrence no longer there. There's currently a hole in the middle of the defensive line, but one that will be addressed is in the coming, weeks, months, however we want to put it. But the edge rushers are still the same elite edge rushers that going into last year, everyone said this group has the potential to be the best edge rush group in the entire NFL. Obviously, Abdul Carter going into year 2. Brian Burns coming off probably his best season. Kayvon entering his last season, and we know how motivated guys tend to be going into the last year of their contract. The best linebacker, the physical, long, lengthy linebackers that this team has had in a long time. I couldn't agree more with you. I think you put it perfectly in that this team, again, we'll see if it works. But going into the season, this team has the mindset of, we are not going to let teams, our opponents, dictate each game. We are going to do it our way. And I think that is just, refreshing to see.
We also seem to forget that the other 2 veteran linemen who are on this team are not exactly shrimps. Darius Alexander has some size to him, and so does Roy Robertson Harris.
Yeah.
They are not exactly Pee-wees or Smurfs now.
No. Large men.
They did keep a couple of guys on that defensive line who certainly have some bulk as well. Mike in Brooklyn, you're next on the show. Hello.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Very well. How are you?
How's it going, Mike?
I'm doing good. Just a few quick points. Paul, loved the Big Blue Breakdown podcast.
Thank you so much.
Great job. I'm a regular watcher viewer. Matt, I was thinking about you when the Eagles took Stowers. I was
we
like,
made it 45 minutes on the show.
Matt's not happy right now.
We made it 45 minutes in the show without that being brought up. Yes, I was not happy. I had a few of you listeners reach out on Twitter to poke some fun. Thanks for that, by the way. I wasn't upset enough. Yeah, that was my nightmare becoming a reality. But what can you do?
Of all the teams, right?
Seriously.
Well, one thing, he's going to catch at least 65 passes a year.
He's going to be
because that's what the Eagles do with their tight ends.
Great now, which makes me torn because I don't want him to do well, at least against us.
I got you.
Yeah, I was going to say about half of those will be against the Giants.
I'm sure they will.
Anyhow, I think it was a great draft. I really like John, I believe the caller before me mentioned, I really like the way Harbaugh and Joe Shane seem to be functioning together. It seems like a good match right now. Another thing you see on social media, it's John. I love John Harbaugh. Don't get me wrong, but everybody calls it John Harbaugh's draft because Joe Shane doesn't get any love, and I think the guy did a great job, especially moving up to the third round. Everybody's complaining about not having a third-round pick. Yeah, I know we didn't want to give up, this year's draft capital, but they saw this guy's an incredible player. Paul, I know you like Malachi Fields.
Love him,
and I think he's going to be terrific. He reminds me, he's the guy out there who's going to complement Neighbors on the opposite side of the field. I think very well. One other take, I cannot believe that. Well, I can't believe what Brian Dable took. Was a major part of that because he was on the phone with the draft pick when they took Tate. Mm-hmm. I don't know if everybody saw it. At 4, when that happened, I was like, okay, now we can get Reese, Styles, or Downs, and it was like we couldn't go wrong. I love the Reese pick because he's like somebody said before. He reminds me of Carl Banks. He's all over the place, but he can rush the passer also, and it's going to be such a great chess piece for our new defensive coordinator to have to play with. We're going to be a tough defense this year. And like you said before, Paul, it's going to be a different kind of defense, but I think we're going to be much better against the run because of our linebacking crew. And I think DJ Reader would be a great addition to the line. So I'm going to let you guys go with that. I know you wanted to get more calls in, and I'll catch up with you guys later. Thanks again.
Thanks so much for the phone call, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
He doesn't have the same frame, but I keep hearing people talk about Banks and Arvell Reese. It's funny, the Giants had a all-star linebacker named Pepper Johnson in the Parcells era, who was from Ohio State and actually played mostly inside linebacker, but when there were some injuries, he actually had to go outside some too. And he was also able to run and get after the quarterback and blitz and get sacks and hits and stuff. Very athletic inside linebacker who hit like a truck and knew how to tackle people. And, their production in that regard is similar, but not the same body type. Pepper had a little bit of a different, more boxier type body type than Arvell Reese does. Jay from Atlanta, you're next on the show. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Paul and Matt?
Very well, Jay.
Good.
How's it going?
Good. Happy to talk to you guys. First of all, great work with how you all have been covering the draft. You all have been keeping me very in tune and updated, so I appreciate you guys.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, no, I just wanted to call and talk about the draft overall. I'm super ecstatic about this team. I feel like we have taken a huge leap over the weekend. I love Arvell Reese and CeCe Malinois, but I think my two favorite picks have to be what came from day 2 with Malachi Fields and Colton Hood. I'm like you, Paulie. I want a skyscraper in my wide receiver room, too. So I love that pick. I really did love seeing that one. But I'm pretty excited about this year. So I just wanted to call him a long-time listener, first-time caller. So I just wanted to share my excitement for this upcoming year. Yeah.
Well, don't wait so long next time to call us back.
No, absolutely. I'll definitely call you guys, especially when the season gets rolling and we have a much better year than we had last year.
I think that's probably in the cards. Appreciate it, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
201-939-4513. You got something else?
Yeah, no, I just wanted, speaking of Malachi Fields, Joe said it after the draft Friday night. He mentioned, obviously, he's over 6'4", 218 pounds. He mentioned the catch radius, the athleticism. The thing that got me the most excited was, I'm sure you remember this, how he described it in terms of using basketball terms. He's like, you got your power forward now. He's your power forward wide receiver. Malik is that sort of finesse, I would say, like shooting guard.
Yeah.
Malachi Fields is your big guy, your big physical guy that's going to go up there, down the field, just tear the ball out of defenders' hands if it comes to it. Like, he is your power forward. And I think he's a just great compliment to Malik Neighbors in that wide receiver room. And as you mentioned, there's reports that if he was there one pick later, the Dolphins were going to take him. So kudos to Joe for getting a sense of the overall draft board and knowing what teams are interested in which guys, because like he was not going to be there if they waited just one more pick and tried to move up. So I know, there's been a lot of talk about how they did give up a decent amount of picks, and there's no doubt about it. To move up from 105 to 74, so to move up those 31 spots, they had to give up their 5th round pick and the 4th round pick next year. As you mentioned on the trade value chart, that does equal, fair value. It's not like they overpaid. And Joe also mentioned this. We haven't touched on it yet. It's not guaranteed because you just never truly know with the compensatory pick formula. But as it stands right now, there is at least a decent chance that the Giants will receive a 4th round pick for Wan'Dale Robinson signing that big contract with the Tennessee Titans. So if that ends up being the case and the Giants do receive a 4th round pick, of course, that 4th round pick will be a little further back than wherever the Giants would be drafting in the 4th round, because those comp picks are at the end of the round. But depending on how the Giants do, even if they, God forbid, they don't have a great season and are drafting near the top of the draft again, you're talking about maybe being 30 spots lower. It's not like, and again, it's not guaranteed, but if they do end up receiving the comp pick, it's not like the biggest drop off there in order to go up this year and get your guy that you think could be a building block of this offense to help Jackson Dart develop and the whole offense develop. And again, as we said before, really dictate the games on their own terms in terms of how we can contribute both in the passing game and the run game.
The point about the speed or the clocking at the combine for Malachi Fields is interesting, because even Joe, when he was asked about that, Joe Shane, that is the GM, said, look at his GPS numbers. He was over 19 miles an hour when he actually ran a go route. There's nothing shabby about 19 plus miles an hour. That's not shabby. No, it's not shabby at all. And so what it comes down to is, and remember, it's your play speed that's more important than your speed in shorts and T-shirts. And obviously also your play speed is about how you run your routes with the speed and the quickness that you're able to make your cuts and accelerate and decelerate and round it off or sharpen it off. And that's all part of that, as opposed to just running a straight line in your shorts. I mean, how many guys in the NFL get to run a straight 40-yard dash in their shorts without either being redirected or contacted?
Fair point.
So, we got to be careful with how much, we emphasize. And you know what? Let me just do this a second, because I've done this in the past, and I did not do it this time. Plexico Burress's 40 time was 4.59.
Not exactly too speedy there.
How impactful was he for the Giants in his 3+ years here?
Pretty impactful, especially in the red zone, which is exactly where, when asked how can he help Jackson Dart, Joe Shane said he's going to be a big target in the red zone, which is invaluable for a young quarterback. And those are Joe's words, not mine.
Now, I suppose if there's one other difference between them, Fields is probably, 3/4 of an inch shorter than Plex, because Plex was over 6'5".
Yeah.
So maybe Fields is just a tad shorter than Plexico Burress. But when I've talked about Fields on this program, and I'm sure you've heard me do it because I did it a ton, he can do for Dart what Burress did for Eli. I'm not saying he's Plexico Burress, but he can play that role, the power forward role, who can also make big plays, have the big catch radius, the big box that the quarterback can throw the ball to. He's going to be able to see him downfield because he is a skyscraper. And that the one thing about Malachi Fields, and I talked to a personnel guy about this, I said, the one thing that I really love about Fields more than all of his traits is his percentage of efficiency. Malachi Fields doesn't leave plays on the field. If a play's designed for him, he runs the right route and he will catch the ball. He won't run a bad route, miscommunicate with his quarterback, wind up dropping an easy catch. No, he doesn't do that. If a play is run for Malachi Fields, you have confidence he's going to do what he's got to do. And one of my favorite phrases, make a play for your quarterback. That's what this guy does.
Yeah, I mean, by now, I'm sure everyone has seen some of the highlights that Malachi had at Notre Dame, and there's one in particular where downfield throw, I don't know, 30, 40 yards down the field, and he just jumps up, grabs the ball with one hand while contested with at least one, if not two defenders on him. Phenomenal. Obviously, that was just one play, but that's just a little highlight, a little preview of what he can contribute. And just one last note on the trade going up to get him. Mm-hmm. Both John and Joe mentioned this Friday night when speaking to the media after the draft, but they had Malachi in the same group of players that they had Colton Hood.
The cluster.
The same clump is how
I call it a cluster.
John used it.
You're right.
So obviously, as I said before, Colton Hood was the top guy on their board. He was going to be the pick if he was there. But if he was not there, whether it be at 37 or if they would have maybe looked to trade down if the number one guy wasn't there, but Malachi Fields was in the conversation for the second round pick. So the fact that they got him almost 40 picks later, like, yes, they obviously had to give up some draft capital to go up and get him, but I don't think they thought there was much of a chance that he was going to drop that far down. And they waited until the last possible moment, as far back as they could, knowing one more pick and the Dolphins are going to take him.
They must have had intel that Miami really wanted him.
For sure.
Had to.
We saw it.
They had
saw the report come out yesterday that they were targeting him with that 75th pick, and the Giants came in and sniped them, which is good to see. It's good to be on the other end of that.
Yes.
For once.
Yes. All right, let's go to some of our comments on YouTube, since some folks are a little shy maybe and bashful about calling. Wild Bill NYG says, let's go. The next dynasty is here. Well, that may be a little premature, but
let's hope.
You never can tell. Zelda Blaze 25. I love the Giants. They're a super team by now. Well, they're a better team. How about that? Can we settle for that right now?
Definitely a better team.
Okay. David 911E. Happy Monday. Great draft. Still need to work on defensive tackle. Makes perfect sense.
Coach himself said it.
T-Tom13 says, what's up, chat? Amazing time for our Giants. All right. 11 E-Manny. Very happy with the draft picks. And finally, we can just chill and wait for the start of the season. And sometime my brain can finally relax. Well, as Coach Harbaugh and Joe Shane said, there's always going to be roster churn, and you're always looking for better players. So You may relax. I don't think they will.
No, they definitely will not.
Hooks Rub says, I have seen Jack Kelly play live. Excellent, because I have not. He says he's a dog. Also, that old school neck roll got me reminiscing about high school playing days.
We did notice upstairs in our little draft room, the neck roll.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie, maybe more excited as soon as I saw that he wears that.
JCNY718, Jack Kelly tape is fun to watch, fellas. He is, for lack of a better term, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, he's a madman on the field.
Again, as I said, he's like a linebacker version of Scat, and Scat very quickly became a fan favorite. I have a feeling Jack Kelly might do the same.
Mandalorian 9 says, J.C. Davis is good for 6th rounder. No argument here. James F5S5Z, that's rather unique, says Hood probably come in and be cornerback 2 from day one. He's going to compete.
Coach said it himself that he's going to compete for that starting spot right away. He's going to have to earn it, especially as a rookie, but he has a chance, yeah.
You know, interesting thing about him, there were 2 injuries in Tennessee's lineup to the cornerback room, and originally they were going to put him in the slot, and then when 2 guys got hurt, including McCroy, who unfortunately ripped up his knee, and we see how he went, 3rd round?
The first pick of the 4th
round. I mean, you know, and Tony Pauline was saying they thought that it was career-threatening, which, what a shame, because dynamite player, obviously, 1st-round player. But because 2 guys had gotten hurt, they were forced to move Hood to the boundary. And he played out there this year, and obviously his stock just shot up to the moon. And so the Giants are very happy to have him. Geronimo says they definitely bringing back Eli's Giants era. And T-Tom13 comes back and says, John Harbaugh said in his initial presser that we have to beat the Eagles. Well, I had no problem with that. We do that by beefing up our lines. We've been bullied for over a decade. It stops now.
Yeah, just real quick. Coach kind of mentioned that Saturday night doing the recap presser. He said when talking about all these big-bodied physical guys, he literally mentioned, he said, interior offensive line. The fact that they're bigger players, longer, heavy-handed type guys is important because especially in this division, you have to play that way. Your interior offensive line has to be physical. Look at the defensive tackles in this league, right down the road especially. I think we know who he was talking about there.
Absolutely. Final 2 comments before we go. Mandalorian9 says Malachi Fields is the next Plexico. And Aiden M. Fink says, when is the NFL schedule coming out? Well, over the last couple of years, it's been mid-May.
I believe they have given a range sometime in the second week of May, sometime between the May 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, that range. So a couple of weeks from now, we should be getting the schedule.
All right, so have a little bit of patience. I know it's tough, but you all had to have a lot of patience to get to the draft.
Look, we want to see the schedule just as much as you guys, so we're anxious.
All right, well, that'll do it for this edition of the Big Blue Kickoff Live program presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We have come to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Thanks for joining us today, folks. It has been a long and fun draft process, but it looks like the Giants did real well for themselves. From Matt Citak, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you again next time.